I hate to be the bearer of bad news or the harbinger of the warnings. Guys, crypto is changing. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a completely different landscape in the next couple to 7 years, aka the 2025 to 2030 bull markets. And ultimately, those who are unprepared are going to reap all of the losses. I am telling you right now, things are changing. I want to explain it to you in today's video, but most importantly, I want to allow you to hedge into the good projects. And I'm going to show you what those good projects are based on actual information, not just telling you what they are. I'm going to give you supporting evidence. So let me take your attention now to the screen, and we're going to go over this again in a nice, easy to follow format. So someone that's, 2 weeks into crypto, right up to someone who's been in this industry for a decade, all can understand it very easily and will learn something, okay? So when assessing which altcoins we need to buy, we must peek into the future. Again, hedge into the future. As any good investor does, you don't just want to invest for tomorrow or the day after. You need to invest for the next 3, 6, 12, 24 months plus, okay? As crypto is changing, and mark my words, it is underneath the surface, enterprises will soon eclipse the demand from retail users like, regular adoption, right? Speculative money such as yourself and I, and instead adopt these technologies, thus creating what I call true demand. So right now it's speculation demand. When true demand comes and actual usage from these amazing protocols happens, that will eclipse anything you and I can produce, right? So this means we need to hedge into those altcoins both in 2025 and especially 2030, okay? Now, again, I want to show this chart before we actually get into a very, very interactive map that I really love to show you guys, right? I'll explain it all, but we need to identify why a lot of these altcoins are going to collapse. Well, over here in 2018, we had 100% retail speculation. Over here in 2021, the last bull market, we had about 5% enterprise adoption. Now, I'm saying 5% in like the best case situation. I doubt it was even 5% at all, okay? So 95% was still retail. And where are we now? We're here. And this was a screen grab from CoinMarketCap. And guess what? 26,300 cryptocurrencies exist. I can't begin to describe to you how woeful that really is. That is way too many cryptocurrencies. And so the massive cull that we are about to see is going to come from the regulation, particularly a catalyst from the XRP lawsuit, and it's going to cull a lot of those projects. Matter of fact, I think post 2025, where I do believe we'll see about 20% enterprise adoption, I think we'll see about 24,000 of these projects culled and about 2,000 max in the next bear market from about 2026 to about 2028 actually surviving, okay? And that's massive because we're going to see not just bad projects, meme coins, shit coins, whatever you want to insert there. We're going to also see some of these good projects die. Why? Because as I'm going to talk about, not just in this video, but a video I'm posting tomorrow, a lot of the projects we are buying are not tailored towards the markets we think they are, which if you're buying for that case, for that particular reason, you're going to be left high and dry. And I'm really scared to see it happen, and why I'm going to be quite frank about what comes next. Not just in this video, but the video I'm posting tomorrow. You guys have to stay tuned for that. Trust me right now, I am not holding back. So I think we'll see a big cull, but I think if we do see any more than 2,000 altcoins remaining at this point, and keep in mind, I do think if people are speculating that there might be a framework implemented much sooner than this time frame over here. More likely 2024 to 2025, we might actually see something again based off the XRP news, and depends how that lawsuit goes, which will put this into effect a lot sooner. But again, guys, over here in 2030, we are going to see 80% enterprise and 20% retail. Now, I want to make one thing very clear before we move on. That 20% retail, I believe, will still be more retail demand than any of these have seen probably combined, but it will be eclipsed by the enterprise markets. We're talking about multi billions here. We're talking about trillions even of dollars coming into the market. So again, we want to hedge into the projects that are actually going to be adequately absorbing this demand and staying away from the ones that just are all for show, or at least people think that they will, or the ones that will actually die off. And a lot of them are obvious and a lot of them are not as well, okay? So let me take you down to the screen here. This, at least what you're about to see, is my interpretation of the space, an important aspect that you need to consider first before doing any other research. Now, I've got about 35, 40 projects on this list. Now, I'm going to give you the reasons why I've picked these as great projects to move forward. But of course, guys, it all depends on these 3 steps, right? So I'll tell you the first 2. The number one thing we have to do is assess the markets. Where are these projects pivoting themselves pushing themselves, or at least adequately kind of positioning for a correct market, okay? So I use an analogy all the time of a gold prospector, someone who goes out in search of gold, right? So if you have a map where you've known that, people have searched before for gold, and geologists have said, hey, look, this certain place has this going on, so there's bound to be gold there, that's where you're going to want to search for gold, or at least around that area where no one's been before, okay? So you're not going to want to search in the middle of nowhere where there is no gold, and essentially you're not a geologist, so you don't really know that there is going to be gold there at all. So why even bother wasting your time? The same thing goes here. You have to find the projects in those markets where the gold is going to be. As I said, enterprise demand is going to be the primary focus and going to come into effect in 2025 and mainly 2030. So we can't be hedging into projects that won't see demand or have the chance to be cut off. The next step we have to look at then is the memeability, right? So we're testing the gold's purity, okay? We have the projects, we found the narrative essentially where there's going to be high demand in 2025/30, right? We've, avoided the bad projects, but is there memeability there? Are those projects, when all that money flows in, for example, layer 2s? So for example, why would someone want to buy Polygon Matic over buying Optimism, right? What's that memeability? What's the real wow factor of Polygon that makes it 10x more appealing than Optimism, okay? That's what you have to look for, because if we buy, in this case, Polygon over Optimism, we have to be sure that most of the money will flow into Polygon, therefore pushing the price up more, making more multiples, hopefully. That's step 1 and 2. Step 3, I haven't got it on here, we'll touch on it in a second, is essentially having a look to ensure that, okay, the projects that we have found based on these 2 criteria can actually absorb the demand from the market. If your projects are fantastic, they, perfect narrative, perfect meme, everyone's going to want to buy that project. Guess what? What is the point if the project isn't actually taking those tokens out of circulation permanently or for a long time? It's just like if a project had utility that took tokens out of circulation, it doesn't matter if that project has 1,000 different types of utility. If those coins go straight back into circulation the following day, there's no demand there. The token price is going to stay the same. The only way the token price in that case will go up is if retail speculation, which as we both know now is going to be primarily out of the market in 2030, buys it. Dumb money buys it, which is going to get a lot less than what you think it is, right? And the good, the smart money will flow into the projects that do it. Okay, so enough rambling on. Let me briefly take you through the interactive map I've created here. So there's 3 different types of things markets we're looking for here. In the broadest sense, we're looking for Web3 specifically. Okay, so that's down here. That's this section specifically, right? So this is things like Ethereum. And by the way, if you're wondering why these circles are different sizes, it's because I have created them based on their market cap size. So obviously Ethereum is large because it's the second largest project. And if we zoom right down here, this is the size of Sui's market cap compared to Ethereum. Okay, so that should give you some size comparison for possible multiples as well. Okay, so Web3, right? So these projects are, particularly focused within this new evolving industry, which, suffice to say, is, going to have good demand. It's an emerging industry. Lots of potential to happen here. Also, there is a little bit of danger because it is a new industry, and right now, as we all know, it's under a little bit of scrutiny. And that's why I've given it like average. So you can see this sort of generally speaking chart here. And as we move up, right, we move into Web 2 specifically. Again, it's average. Now, there will be more demand, at least right now, in Web 2 than Web 3. But eventually, it's going to be average as well. Why? Well, we're talking about the market capture here. How much, if a project primarily focuses on one sector, what is the chance of it actually obtaining the market share? And the difference between Web 2 and Web 3 is Web 3, those projects have a greater chance of actually becoming, where they want to go to, right? They have a better chance of actually absorbing the market because there's less demand. There's 26,000 projects, but you're not dealing with established enterprises that have processes and procedures for everything. And, it's a pretty bad name trying to attach yourself to crypto in Web 2. So that's why it's average, right? It's hard to attack. And that's why Web 3 is also average, because essentially it's a new industry, less money, so on and so forth. But if you can find the projects that are ultra high, right in the dead center, perfectly balanced between Web 2 and Web 3, because they're getting the best of both worlds. Now, I want to say, oftentimes, like the jack of all trades analogy, sometimes it's not better to be the master of everything, or somewhat good at everything and be the master of one thing, okay? Because you can primarily focus your iron sights on one area, get real big, and then branch out from there. And we've seen this happen with Polygon Matic recently, okay? So hopefully I'm not being too vague in this sense. Essentially, just to kind of cover what this map shows you, well, it shows you Web 2, all right? So it'll show us things like consortium private networks like Quorum, R3 Core, and Hyperledger Fabric. These are essentially, like the projects, the layer 1 projects we all know and love, right? Hedera, Hashgraph, and Algorand, for example, except they went the route of not having a public network that anyone can build on. Therefore, there's no need for them to have their own token. There's no like, QUO token or R3 token or HYP. I'm just making up symbols here. HYP token, because there's no public infrastructure. There's only private infrastructure for their customers. And it turns out their customers are actually the biggest people in the world. They're massive enterprises, right? Central banks use them, governments, traditional markets themselves, healthcare. That's why I've kind of siphoned them all out, because if you're connected to like, XDC is, if you're like the public network, for example, on one of these guys, again, this is huge for XDC. I don't want to get into it in this video. It's massive because you're not just getting this partner with R3 Quarter, you're getting all of the partners associated with R3 Quarter. If that makes any sort of sense in the world, okay? I know that might have lost to some of you in that case. Let's cycle back here. So essentially, we also have enterprises, central large banks, governments, traditional markets, as I said, in healthcare. So of course, projects going to focus on one or multiple or all of these areas in order to gain demand from Web 2. Again, it takes longer. You're fighting with more established and hardened competition here. And obviously with infrastructure, right? If you're a business and you've been using a product for 20 years, if a new project comes along and says, hey, you want to use us? And there's a processes involved with that. So again, that's why it's average. But again, you have your projects in Web 2 and Web 3 that I've outlined here. Okay, so that's things like HBAR. Again, we'll be here all day trying to connect the dots. All right, so HBAR is connected to a whole heap of different enterprises and a whole heap of different markets. And the reason why, of course, it's in Web 2 and Web 3 is because it also has over here, it's public Web 3 infrastructure, the Hashgraph, right? HBAR token itself. So that's what I kind of added on here with down all these projects here. Okay, so they all have their public tokens. Again, public networks rather, and that's why I've given them in the middle, like ultra high marketability, right? In the best possible situation. So, I don't want to go through all of these. You have like, for example, XDC over here with their Zinfin public network. You have XRP with the XRP ledger, right? So then you have Stellar over here with their Soroban. And then we have Quant. So Quant has the Illuminati triangle because that's just a symbol I decided to use that indicates, hey, it connects to all of Web3. It's interop, right? So these ones over here, the rectangles, they have just like a public network. Quant's like an infrastructure interoperability project, right? We have AVAX, right? Again, layer 1 general purpose. They have subnets, right? The subnets are connected to Web3. And then over here, right, we have VeChain. Now, VeChain's an interesting one because VeChain does have its public network, right? VeChain Thor, but it doesn't really have a good ecosystem at all. It's mainly focused in Web 3. Matter of fact, it actually was one of these guys. Okay, so I believe VeChain is a stretch. VeChain really should have been up here, for example. Then we have Chainlink, right? So Chainlink isn't actually up in this gray section because Chainlink isn't giving back to Web 2. Chainlink's only extracting from Web 2, giving it to Web 3. That's why it's only in Web 3. Now, this whole Web 3 space down here. But it also has CCIP, again, this interoperability protocol, right? So this isn't actually out yet, but essentially it will sort of act a little bit like Quant in a way, right? So, and then we have, the decentralized computation networks. We have Render and we have Flux. And then over here, Multiverse X, right? So Multiverse X isn't as connected to very many as some other networks, for example, like XRP. Nevertheless, of course, it still has its feet and ties in Web 2. So that is what I deem as the best possible projects you can find. Again, you have projects in here like Matic. These guys have recently started branching out. They're now calling themselves the value layer of the internet. So they are now pushing themselves more and more and more into that Web 3 to Web 2 space. So yes, I definitely could have included this up here. It would have looked quite messy though. You have other layer 2 solutions for Ethereum. Again, Ethereum is quite massive. We have ADA, BNB, Atom, right? All the Polkadot and parachains. Yes, I did go ahead and actually add in all of them by hand. So I want to actually build this map out very comprehensively, but it's going to take a very long time. So I didn't want to do it for this video. It might take me weeks, but if you guys want to see that built out and a lot more comprehensive, definitely let me know. So let's kind of understand what we're looking at and what projects I've chosen here. So I believe those that will consist of a perfect blend between Web 2 and Web 3 will survive moving forward. Again, best of both worlds. It's not trying to be the jack of all trades per se. It can focus on one particular niche. like XDC, but it does have that safeguard of being accessible to both markets, or in this case, have a monopoly / unique one-of-a-kind technology itself or first mover advantage in their niche. So here's the 3 steps, again, outlined so you guys can take this information away and apply it to your project. 1, locate what markets that particular project is attracting or targeting, right? So what are we looking at? Healthcare here, TradeFi, so on and so forth. And does the altcoin have ultra high market impact in that particular market? So again, we're trying to find this, but again, it's okay to be average. Now, again, it's generally speaking here. It doesn't have to actually be average. It's just generally speaking. So number 2, is that altcoin somehow different to its competitors, right? What is the difference? What is a wow factor essentially? Okay, what stands out that project from its competitors or the crowd? So you want it to be different and for people to, or enterprises to go, oh, that's a good project. I want to buy that one over X project because it just sounds cooler. Or as I said, with this pivot, with the cull of the, of the industry, enterprises, why do enterprises want to use that project? So it's very important to think about this. So for example, again, same thing, right? Unique, one-of-a-kind technology, monopoly, highly embedded. If it's highly used as service in other projects and companies, that's obviously very important as well. First mover, so on and so forth. Number 3, is that project adequately absorbing the demand? Very important we look at this, okay, in these steps, because if it's not absorbing the demand, again, those tokens come out of circulation from utility, but they're put back in the next day, there's no positive price action, right? So there is no point in investing in a project that cannot absorb demand from the markets in step 1. So this whole process is completely wasted if the project isn't going to appreciate in price from all of that happening. However, keep in mind, projects actually do evolve over time. This is something people often overlook, right? So they can obviously increase more demand based on upgrades. Chainlink is going through an upgrade right now called Economics 2.0, where it's focusing more to accept or absorb this demand, which it hasn't been doing before. They have actively said, Chainlink here, that they are focusing on token absorption, token capture, right? And or change their target markets like Polygon. Again, they've moved from like this Web3 only project to now the whole value layer of the internet. They're now pushing themselves into Web 2. They have the connections to make it happen, so obviously it makes sense. So here's the breakdown, guys. Again, I don't want to like repeat all this. I've put VeChain in Web 2 because it really pretty much is Web 2 specifically. But these are the projects you have to look out for. Now, might I say, I haven't included all the projects I wanted to, because again, I didn't want to have to add 50 to 100 projects on this list. There is a lot more that I deem a fantastic hedge that will obviously beat this. As I said, I think we'll see a maximum of about 2,000 projects. I could probably name 100 off the top of my head. So guys, use this format, use this sheet to hedge against the culling of the industry, right? It's very, very important. It's changing and you have to be prepared. If you're prepared, you're going to be obviously be able to, extract the most amount of value. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. And if you have enjoyed it, smash the like button. I post 2 videos every single day, so subscribe for more of this content. Thanks again. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.